Why is it that most men labor endlessly, yet remain poor, while a few command riches that bend nations to their will? The problem is not effort, but ignorance. You chase money yet do not understand its nature. Today, that ignorance ends. I am Niccolò Machiavelli, and I will reveal to you the secret laws of wealth. Not the illusions sung by merchants, or the promises of philosophers, but the truths by which princes and rulers thrive. This is how money works, and if you master it, you will master men themselves. Let us begin with the essence, the very soul of money, for without understanding its nature, all else is wasted breath. Many think of money as coins in the hand, or numbers glowing on a screen, or treasures locked behind iron doors, but to see money in such simple terms is to mistake the shadow for the substance. Money is not metal, nor paper, nor digital ink. Money is trust, agreement, and most of all, it is power dressed in disguise. Consider this: a coin is worth nothing by itself. Melt it down, and it is but metal. Tear the paper note, and it is but ash. Wipe away the number in your bank account, and you hold nothing at all. Yet men kill, cheat, and even betray their own blood for these illusions. Why? Because money's true nature is not in its form, but in the faith men give it. It is a promise, believed by many, and therefore strong enough to bend armies, alter kingdoms, and dictate the lives of millions. Understand, therefore, that money is an invention of human will, yet it has grown so powerful that it now rules its creator. The masses live and die by its chains. They trade their hours, their sweat, their very freedom for a handful of coins. A man may love honor, but he will rent his honor for money. A man may swear loyalty, but if his stomach is empty, his loyalty will vanish at the sight of gold. You must not be deceived by the idea that money is a moral force. It carries no justice, no fairness, no mercy. Money flows where strength compels it to flow. It abandons the weak and kneels before the resolute. A merchant does not grow rich because the heavens bless him. He grows rich because he understands the pulse of men's desires, and he positions himself to command them. A prince does not grow powerful because he has the strongest sword, but because he commands the treasury that pays those who hold the swords. Watch carefully how money behaves in society. When confidence is high, when men believe in rulers, merchants, and institutions, money multiplies like rabbits in the spring. Trade flourishes, wealth grows, and men grow complacent in their luxury. But the moment confidence breaks, when faith in the ruler, the market, or the promise of money itself falters, wealth evaporates like mist in the morning sun. Fortunes collapse overnight, and men, who once believed themselves masters of riches, discover they are but servants of an illusion that has betrayed them. This is why money must never be seen as a mere possession, something to hoard and clutch like a miser in the dark. Hoarded money breeds decay, for money gains power only when it moves. A treasury that does not circulate is like stagnant water. It rots, it stinks, it poisons the one who keeps it. Money reveals its true nature only when it is exchanged, when it passes from hand to hand, binding men in a chain of obligations and favors. That is its real power. It creates networks of dependence, and dependence is the strongest form of control. Ask yourself, why do rulers tax? It is not merely to fill their coffers. It is to remind the people that their survival is tethered to the state. Why do merchants extend credit? Not because they are generous, but because debt is a leash, invisible yet unbreakable. This is the nature of money. It enslaves not by force, but by silent agreement. And yet, while money is ruthless, it is also obedient to the wise. Like a beast, it can be tamed, but only those who understand its true essence can wield it as a tool, instead of bowing before it as a master. To treat money as merely wealth is to remain a servant of circumstance. To recognize it as power, influence, and trust, that is to take the first step toward mastery. You must see what others refuse to see, that money is a weapon sharper than steel. Armies crumble without it. Kingdoms fall when it vanishes. Even faith and loyalty, those lofty virtues men love to praise, are bought and sold through it. The man who understands this truth may appear poor in possessions, but he holds a wealth greater than gold. The knowledge that money is not the end, but the instrument by which ends are achieved. Now that you have glimpsed the nature of money, let us examine its inseparable companion, control. For money is never neutral. It does not rest quietly in the hand like a stone. It presses outward, shaping the choices of men, bending their loyalty, commanding their actions. Where money dwells, control follows, and he who commands wealth commands men, as surely as a general commands an army. Think on this truth: soldiers march not for the beauty of the banner, nor for the nobility of honor alone. They march because they are paid. Cut off their wages, and even the bravest soldier's courage falters. A treasury empty is an army defeated before the battle begins. Thus the might of princes, of kings, of republics themselves, rests less on valor than on the steady flow of coin. The merchant, too, wields his power not through strength of arms but through the purse. He may not conquer with the sword, but he conquers markets, he conquers appetites, he conquers the daily lives of men. If you owe him a debt, he is your master. If you rely upon his goods, he dictates your survival. His control is invisible, but no less absolute than that of a tyrant upon a throne. And what of rulers who believe they may govern without wealth? They are fools, for authority without coin is an empty mask. The promises of the state must be fed by revenues. Laws without the ability to enforce them through funded officers are but words upon parchment. Men do not obey laws simply because they exist. They obey because there are punishments, salaries, and bribes woven behind them, all sustained by money. You must also see how money extends control far beyond the battlefield or the court. It reaches into the very hearts of men, twisting their desires and binding their ambitions. A man may swear to you his eternal loyalty, but let his purse grow heavy with another's coin, and watch how swiftly his loyalty shifts. Do not condemn him too harshly. This is not corruption of his soul, but the very nature of money's power. For money whispers louder than friendship, louder than honor, louder even than fear. Consider the politician who rises by eloquence and promises. Without money, his words vanish into the air like smoke. But with money, his voice multiplies through scribes, through printing presses, through speeches carried on every street. Money is the amplifier of influence. It takes the weak man and makes him appear strong, takes the unknown and thrusts him into the eyes of the crowd. This is control, not through force, but through visibility, persuasion, and the silent command of wealth. Now reflect upon the employer and the laborer. The employer may appear benevolent, the laborer hardworking, yet their bond is forged in money. The laborer sells his time, his strength, sometimes even his dignity, in exchange for coin. The employer buys not just labor, but compliance, silence, obedience. The worker may dream of freedom, yet each morning he bends his will to another man's command, because his stomach depends on wages. And so control is maintained not by chains of iron, but by chains of necessity forged in gold. Money not only commands individuals, it molds entire societies. Cities grow where trade flows, roads are built where taxes allow, armies swell where treasuries are full, and when the coffers empty, famine spreads, law collapses, disorder reigns. The crowd may shout for liberty, but in truth they shout for bread, for wages, for the means to live. The ruler who understands this controls not only his people's actions, but also their very passions. For hunger makes rebels, while full bellies breed obedience. Notice also how money shapes alliances. Two men who share no kinship may become bound as brothers if they share profit. Two kingdoms that once waged war may suddenly embrace if gold unites them in commerce. Control is not only about command over subordinates. It is also about binding equals, sometimes even superiors, with wealth that obliges their cooperation. Debt between rulers is a bond stronger than treaties signed in ink, for money enforces its own oaths without sentiment. Yet let me remind you, control through money is both powerful and perilous. It grants influence swiftly, yet it also awakens envy, greed, and rivalry. Men will conspire against a prince who taxes too heavily. They will despise a merchant who profits too openly. They will plot against any hand they see as holding too much wealth. Control, therefore, must be exercised with care. Too little, and you are weak; too much, and you provoke rebellion. The art lies in disguising control as generosity, in making your wealth appear as the lifeblood of others rather than their chain. You must see money not as a treasure to hoard, but as a lever to move men. Hoarded gold in a locked vault has no power. It is a mute idol, but money spent with purpose, money placed strategically, money distributed to buy loyalty, silence, or ambition. That money becomes the unseen general of your cause. Those who control wealth in this manner hold dominion, far greater than those who merely hold a sword. No, let us turn to a deception so subtle that even the wealthiest fall prey to it. The illusion of riches. Men imagine that abundance alone makes them powerful, that overflowing treasuries secure their rule, that gilded palaces and jeweled robes prove their greatness. But I tell you, riches in themselves are a false idol, for often the man who seems richest is in truth the weakest, and the one who appears poor commands greater power than any prince smothered in gold. Understand, this wealth is not measured by the glitter of possessions, but by the freedom it grants you to act. Many who appear rich are shackled by their own treasures. They cannot move boldly for fear of losing what they have amassed. Their riches become a chain, delicate but unbreakable, binding their hands more tightly than iron ever could. They hoard, they protect, they cling to luxury, and in their caution they lose the daring that once made them rise. Wealth, instead of being their servant, becomes their master. Picture the nobleman whose halls shine with marble, whose feasts spill with wine, whose name is praised in every street. Yet he spends his nights sleepless, fearing the loss of it all. He cannot risk investment, he cannot risk offense, he cannot risk the bold decisions that shape destiny, because all his courage has been smothered beneath velvet cushions. He is not the master of riches, he is its prisoner, bowing daily before the altar of comfort. What greater illusion can there be than a man who seems powerful, but in truth lives in terror of losing his coin? Contrast this with the merchant who does not flaunt wealth, but bends it to his will. He spends not to display his status, but to expand his influence. He is willing to risk coin today if it multiplies tomorrow. He is willing to let go of possessions, if by doing so he secures advantage. Such a man is poor in appearance perhaps, but his mind holds dominion over fortune. He is not blinded by the illusion of riches, because he sees wealth for what it truly is. An instrument, not an idol. This illusion corrupts not only individuals but whole nations. Republics grow fat with prosperity, their citizens drunk on luxury, their armies softened by indulgence. They believe their riches make them invincible, yet their spirit rots within. Enemies strike, and they fall swiftly, for wealth without discipline is a body without bones. Look at history. The greatest empires were not undone by poverty, but by their wealth. Rome, mighty Rome, drowned in its own abundance. Citizens who once conquered the world with iron and fire now demanded bread and spectacles. Their rulers bought peace with gold instead of courage, until barbarians tore apart what no army once could. This is the fate of those who mistake riches for strength. The illusion of riches also deceives those who seek respect. Men dress themselves in finery, they parade their jewels, they boast of estates. They believe others bow to their wealth, when in truth others laugh behind their backs. For men do not respect gold, they respect the will that commands gold. A poor man who dares greatly, who spends strategically, who holds no fear of loss, will be feared and followed more than a rich man imprisoned in his own vanity. Do not imagine, however, that rejecting luxury means rejecting wealth. No, the wise man does not despise riches, he simply refuses to worship them. He uses them boldly, as a craftsman uses his tools, shaping the world around him. When he gives, it is not to flaunt generosity, but to buy loyalty. When he saves, it is not to hoard in fear, but to prepare for future conquest. When he spends, it is not for vanity, but for strategy. Such a man sees through the illusion, for he knows that gold is powerless, without the will to direct it. But the foolish man, how common he is, believes the pile of coin itself is enough. He sits upon it like a dragon in a fable, believing himself untouchable. Yet all it takes is one clever rival, one daring enemy, to snatch away what he has guarded. his riches vanish, and with them his courage, for he had none of his own. The illusion has blinded him, and when the illusion shatters, nothing remains. To understand the illusion of riches is to recognize that wealth is not in the possession of gold, but in the mastery of it. He who clings too tightly becomes weak. He who dares to wield it boldly becomes strong. The true danger is not poverty, but the false security of abundance, for abundance lulls men into complacency, and complacency invites ruin. Now we arrive at the art most misunderstood by men, the strategy of prosperity. For riches alone do not guarantee survival, nor does poverty alone bring ruin. It is the manner in which wealth is used, preserved, and directed that determines whether a man prospers or perishes. Fortune, that fickle mistress, does not favor those who wait idly, nor those who spend recklessly, but those who know how to balance daring with caution, generosity with restraint, and vision with discipline. Consider the prince who gains a treasury overflowing with gold through conquest or inheritance. If he clutches it tightly and refuses to spend, he appears weak to his people, cold to his allies, and unworthy of loyalty. Soldiers who fight without reward grow restless. Merchants who trade without profit seek other lands. Citizens who see no benefit in their prince's riches turn bitter, believing his hoarded wealth has been stolen from their labor. A treasury locked and unused breeds resentment and decay, for money that does not move has no life. Now consider the opposite prince, the prodigal spender, who showers his court with jewels, who bribes the crowd with spectacles, who buys loyalty with endless gifts. At first, he shines brilliantly, adored by the people, praised by allies, admired by all who feed upon his generosity. But the treasury is not bottomless. Soon the well runs dry, debts grow like weeds, and creditors sharpen their knives. When crisis comes, he has nothing left to give, and those who once praised him vanish into silence. Generosity without restraint destroys faster than miserliness. The wise ruler, therefore, learns the strategy of prosperity, a path that threads between waste and hoarding. He spends when spending wins him loyalty, when it secures him power, when it invests in strength that endures. He restrains when extravagance serves no purpose, when gold would only polish vanity or weaken discipline. His generosity is not charity, it is calculated. His frugality is not stinginess, it is prudence. Every coin serves a purpose, and every purpose serves his dominion. You must also see that prosperity is not static, it is built upon motion. Money multiplies only when it is directed wisely into ventures that return more than they consume. A prince who invests in roads, in markets, in ships, in armies is not spending but planting. His coin grows into influence, into power, into the stability of his realm. But a prince who wastes on pleasures, on feasts, on ornaments, may shine for a moment, yet his shine fades, leaving only ash. Prosperity that does not generate future strength is but a fleeting dream. Observe also the balance of fear and favor. A ruler who spends to win love must always ask, is that love sincere, or does it vanish when the purse is empty? Love bought with gifts alone is fragile, but loyalty earned through wise investment, in protection, in opportunity, in shared prosperity, endures even when fortune shifts. Money should be used not to enslave men to comfort, but to bind them through mutual gain. This is the difference between a ruler who bribes his people and one who builds with them. And what of risk? No prosperity was ever built without it. The miser believes that holding fast to gold keeps him safe, but his safety is illusion. For wealth hidden does not grow, and wealth that does not grow is consumed by time. Yet the reckless spender who risks all without calculation invites ruin, as swiftly as the coward invites irrelevance. The strategy of prosperity lies in choosing risks that others fear, but you have prepared for, in daring where boldness multiplies your strength, and in withdrawing where danger consumes without reward. Prosperity also demands vigilance. Fortune is never still. Trade shifts, markets collapse, allies turn, enemies rise. The prince who rests upon past victories will find his prosperity crumble, for yesterday's strategy does not always serve tomorrow's challenge. He must be alert, adapting his use of wealth as the tides of fortune change. To endure, one must not only possess coin, but the wisdom to transform it endlessly into new forms of power. Finally, consider the individual, not just the prince. The common man too is ensnared in the strategy of prosperity, though he rarely knows it. He spends thoughtlessly, believing comfort today secures happiness tomorrow. He saves fearfully, believing a pile of gold will protect him. But without purpose, both spending and saving are vanity. The worker who uses his earnings to build skill, to buy freedom from debt, to invest in ventures that outlive him, rises above the multitude. The one who wastes on fleeting pleasures, or who hoards without vision, remains a servant to fortune. The strategy of prosperity is the highest mastery of money. It requires neither worship of wealth nor contempt for it, but command over it. It is the art of directing coin not as treasure, but as weapon, as seed, as shield, each according to its time. For wealth is never safe in stillness and lives only in motion, and motion guided by wisdom is the true path to enduring power. You have now seen the 4 laws that govern wealth. First, that money is not gold or paper, but the faith of men, a power born of trust. Second, that he who commands wealth commands men, for the purse bends loyalty more swiftly than the sword. Third, that riches in themselves are a dangerous illusion, for abundance without mastery makes a man the servant of his own treasures. And fourth, that prosperity is not chance but strategy, a careful balance of daring and restraint, where every coin is a soldier sent into battle with purpose. Understand this: well, money is never the goal, it is the instrument, the weapon, the lever that moves men, cities, even kingdoms. Those who chase it blindly remain slaves to fortune. Those who master it bend fortune to their will. Ask yourself then, do you serve your wealth, or does your wealth serve you? For in that answer lies the true measure of power.